Hi guys, I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's taken me days to put this video together because I wanted it done perfectly because that's what these boys deserve. I've had to come to the realization that there's no perfect way to do this, so I'm just going to kind of go with the flow while discussing this with you. Rather than me trying to summarize the tragedy that occurred on June 15th, 2023, I am going to just dive right into the Clermont County court documents, the bill of particulars, so you guys have a clear understanding of exactly what happened that day. I will inform you that this man, Chad Doerman, has been charged with 3 counts of felonious assault, 9 counts of kidnapping, and 9 counts of aggravated murder in the deaths of his 3 sons, whom he executed on June 15th, 2023. After I discuss the bill of particulars with you guys, I will be showing you body cam footage and clips from the hearings that he has already attended. The State of Ohio versus Chad C. Doerman, Bill of Particulars. On or about June 15, 2023, at 1965 Laurel-Lindale Road, New Richmond, Ohio, and Clermont County, Ohio, the defendant did purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of his 3 children. All 3 children were under the age of 13 years of age. On June 15, 2023, the defendant returned early from work and had his family, including his wife and 3 sons, join him in the master bedroom for a nap. At some point after lying down with the 4 of them, the defendant got out of bed, opened the gun safe next to the bed, removed a Marlin Model HC-22 rifle from the gun safe and a loaded magazine. The defendant then inserted the magazine into the rifle and shot his son twice. Immediately, their mother began to render aid to the boy and yelled for her other children to run. Just prior to the shooting, their sister, who had been watching television in the family room, made her way to the master bedroom and witnessed the shooting. She immediately began to run and indicated that one of her brothers ran the wrong way out of the rear door of the residence and toward the field. She ran after him, screaming at him to keep running. She witnessed the defendant chase after him and witnessed the defendant begin shooting at him as he fled. The young boy was struck by gunfire, knocking him to the ground. She watched as the defendant then approached the young boy. The defendant turned and looked at her, then turned back to the young boy and fired 1 shot into his head at close range. She then turned and fled back into the residence, where she picked up the youngest child and attempted to flee the residence with him. As she attempted to flee, the defendant returned to the residence and heard her other brother crying. She immediately began running with the youngest child. As she approached the road, the defendant caught up to her. He then raised the rifle and pointed the firearm at the youngest child. He demanded that she put the child down. She begged the defendant not to shoot her and to put the gun down. She then witnessed the defendant attempt to shoot the child in the head. However, the gun did not fire, and it appeared he was out of ammunition. The youngest child then fled to his mother, who was in the side yard attempting to render aid to the first child that was shot. Their sister then proceeded to flee towards the Monroe Township Fire Department. She was stopped by a passerby and advised the witness that her father was, quote, killing everyone, as she continued to flee towards the fire department.
Where's your emergency? There's a girl running down the street saying that her stepfather is killing everyone in her family. It's on the corner of where there's a body shop in the fire department. Do you know what road this is?
Okay, what's your name?
I ran to the fire department.
What's your name?
Do you know what road this is? Laura Lindell Road.
You said what?
It's Laura Lindell Road.
Okay, and what did the female say to you?
And she says that her stepfather is killing everybody in her house. I did. I'm on the phone with them right now.
Did she say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family. But I think she ran to the fire department.
So she went to the fire station. What did she look like?
She's she's probably a young teenager, probably like 16 maybe, with long blonde hair. And she has a black dog.
Did she say anything about a baby?
I don't know about no baby. She said she just couldn't leave her family. But I see a car running around. I'm sorry?
Do you see anything from the house?
So I drove down the road a little bit, so I was afraid that I was going to get shot myself since I interacted with her face to face. So I'm just about maybe 3 houses down. But she's like waiting at the corner. I don't know what she's doing, but I kind of still see her in the corner. But I saw a car kind of came around and whipped around, so I'm not exactly sure if that's him or if he's chasing her or not. I'm sorry?
What kind of vehicle was it?
I saw it. It was like a gray. Did you see that car whip around? It's one of the fire department guys.
Okay.
I think maybe a fire department guy. It was a regular kind of Focus-looking gray car.
Okay, we have help on the way. Thank you so
Dark
much.
gray.
At some point, the defendant went back out into the field and carried the youngest deceased boy back to the side of the residence and laid his body in the yard where all 3 children were ultimately found. The defendant and the children's mother engaged in a physical altercation over one of the children, during which the defendant attempted to pull the child from her arms, going so far as to bite her to get her to release the child. During the altercation, she grabbed the firearm, placing her thumb over the barrel. The defendant shot her through the thumb. After being shot and bit, she ultimately dropped the child. During the chaos, the defendant also attempted to reload his firearm. The defendant then proceeded to execute the child, shooting him at close range once in the head. The child was ultimately laid in the same area as his brothers on the side of the residence. After the defendant executed all 3 boys, he sat on the side stoop of the residence and calmly watched as their mother undertook life-saving measures on all 3 of her children. Here is the body cam footage when first responders arrived on the scene. The blacked out images are of his 3 deceased sons.
Stand up now!
I'm not showing hands, so we're calling commands. His name is Doerman. Doerman.
I know, but we can't.
If you need first aid and he's not complying, you don't need to shoot him.
We gotta find cover first. We ain't no good if we ain't safe ourselves. Hey, no. We need to come from this side where we can see him. Don't take cover behind her. We see him. We're going to approach from this side. We got cover. Right here.
6 cover, 29 and 63 attack on.
Show us your fucking hands now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up!
EMS is staged and air carriers are going to go ahead and fly whenever any units can advise.
Get your hands up here. Cover 21. Send the air.
Those guys can confirm that there's people that need first aid, and that's the shooter. He's not complying. They need to take care of the victims. They have to shoot him and shoot him.
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I'm completely sober. Not big drugs
63, we're 21. Get the EMS over here.
Well, I did drugs real quick, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to fight you. Gatlin,
63.
get your butt inside. Gatlin, get your butt inside.
We on primary?
Now.
29, we got 3 kids down.
3 kids down, 63 down.
Gatlin.
63, we're 21. Have EMS respond over here.
You're clear, they're being advised.
Robert 34, just started mass casualty response.
63, do you want them to respond to the Laurel Lindale address? Where exactly do you need them?
We're right in the front yard. What are you doing, man?
Hey, are you copying all this?
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody.
You got anything on you?
No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad. I ain't nothing.
You make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him.
All right.
He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna get
I ain't
you
gonna
here
do
in a
nothing. I ain't
second.
running away. You can do whatever you want.
Here. You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside the house?
Yeah.
Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
One of the children was shot once at close range in the head, while the other 2 brothers were both shot 4 times. All 3 brothers died as a result of their injuries. Their sister has suffered serious psychological harm as a result of being held at gunpoint, forced to surrender one of her brothers to the defendant for his execution. The defendant made multiple statements to law enforcement, such as, quote, "I did it. Take me to jail. I shouldn't have done that." The defendant also gave a statement during an audio and video recorded interview, during which he admitted to having been thinking about shooting his son since October. He further indicated during that interview that the thoughts of having to kill his sons was so heavy on him that he hadn't slept for 3 or 4 days prior to murdering his 3 sons. On June 22, 2023, Chad Doerman went in front of a Clermont County judge for a bond hearing.
State of Iowa is Chad Doerman, 2023 CRA 1975. This matter is before the court today for purposes of bond hearing. Mr. Kellum, you were here on behalf of Mr. Doerman. Mr. DeCalvi, Mr. Gast on behalf of the state of Ohio. Mr. Kellum as the bond. Go ahead, sir.
As the bond, Your Honor, he is 32 years old. He lives in Richmond, married, is employed. He indicates that his relatives, Gloria Doerman, Todd Frost, and Keith Doerman, may act as co-signers for him. At this time, Your Honor, we would submit to the court that a bond of $75,000 with order conditions would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeCalvi.
Judge Mark DeCalvi, Clermont County Prosecutor on behalf of the state. At this point, I'm going to let Mr. Gast handle the bond for an hour and a half. Thank you.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Judge, we've got law enforcement with us here today. Our office has been involved. Lots of people in our office have been involved with law enforcement throughout yesterday, afternoon, and evening, all the way through this morning. And the facts I have for you at this point are as follows. The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process. In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun that father was wielding to attempt to protect them. We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. Judge, I asked the court in setting this bond to just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. The man they trust more than any other person on earth. The person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world. He was their guardian. and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. By that same admission, Judge, he has committed one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see. To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the events of this day. This did not happen on a whim. He's confessed to what I believe is the worst crime, at least I hope, that I'll see in my lifetime. I hope it's the worst fact pattern that ever comes before this court. Judge, it's important for the court to know in the bond we're going to request today, for the court to understand Clermont County deputies, Monroe Township Fire and EMS, and other first responders bravely respond to the scene where they don't know what's going on. They did not know what they're facing, and they come into a scene that no one can ever be prepared for. No law enforcement training, no training of any kind prepares you for this. It's easy to forget that these are men and women with families, children, feelings, emotions. They're not some automaton performing a delegated function. They're people. They were required to give CPR to gunshot children, 3, 4, and 7-year-old children. They held these boys in their arms, knowing there was nothing they could do to save them. How long do those scars last? What day do you wake up from that and you're healed? How do you unsee such an abomination? The bond factors this court needs to consider today are set forth in Criminal Rule 46, nature and circumstance of the crime charged, and specifically whether the defendant used or had access to a weapon, including the seriousness of the offense. It's the most serious offense that we have on the books, Judge. This is it. You can't commit a more serious offense. So the nature of the crime charge is the worst crime that can be charged. Did he have access to a weapon? Yes, obviously he did. The weight of the evidence against the defendant at this point, Judge, we stand here with a full admission of the defendant. That also goes to the confirmation of the defendant's identity, and witnesses on scene did see at least part of what happened. Next, the court is to consider the likelihood this person would return to court if a bond were issued. Again, this is the most heinous crime with the most severe penalty under the law that we presented to the grand jury. That alone would be a major factor in discouraging a person from availing themselves to this court or any other. And the thought to flee and the likelihood of flight is great in the state's opinion. The danger he poses to the community is a factor that this court can consider, and I think with the facts in front of you, Judge, we can't name a person that poses a greater threat to the community. As his prior record goes, Judge, it is fairly minimal. He was charged with domestic violence in 2010. He is not, to my knowledge, on probation or community control. Judge, the facts of this case are hopefully like no other we will ever see. When this case gets indicted in the Court of Common Pleas, I am certain that a no bond hearing will be held, and I would hope that would be granted. But at this point, at this juncture, we're going to ask this court to issue a bond we've never asked for before. I'm going to ask for a bond of $20 million. I hope I never need to request such a bond again.
Thank you. Date for preliminary hearing?
The date for the preliminary hearing, Judge, is 6/26.
No objection, Your Honor.
The preliminary hearing will be set for June 26th at 1 p.m. At this point in time, bond's going to be set in the amount of $20 million cash or surety. Anything else at this time, Mr. Gast?
No, Judge.
Mr. Down. Mr. Kalm, anything further?
Nothing at this
All
time.
right, thank you.
He pled not guilty on all 21 counts at his June 26, 2023 preliminary court hearing.
In count 3, does the defense agree with the possible penalties that have been recited? For the record, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Doerman, you understand? Thank you, Mr. Perrinelli. As to count 4, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Count 4 is charged pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 290301B, again, aggravated murder and unspecified felony. And there are multiple aggravating circumstance specifications attached to that count as well. The same aggravating circumstance specifications, the victim under 13, course of conduct specification, and felony murder specification, as well as that firearm specification. Again, if convicted of aggravated murder, as well as any of the aggravating circumstance specifications, the possible penalties would be death, life without parole, life with the possibility of parole after 30 years, or life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. The firearm specification again carries that 3 years mandatory, which must be served prior and consecutive to any imposed prison sentence, and the possible fine of $25,000. If convicted of aggravated murder without any aggravating circumstance specification, the possible penalties would be life without parole, life with the possibility of parole after 30 years, life with the possibility of parole after 25 years, life with the possibility of parole after 20 years, and that same firearm specification, the 3 years mandatory, and the same fine of $25,000.
Thank you. Mr. Myers or Mr. Haynes, you agree. Mr. Doerman, you understand?
Chad Doerman is now scheduled for a pretrial for September 22nd, 2023. If any new information or any new court documents are released, I will make sure to keep you guys posted. Again, this story is so heartbreaking and tragic, and it just really has been hard for me to comprehend, even though it's not comprehensible. Next, I'd like to take a moment for those boys who were tragically executed by the hands of the person that they loved the most, their father.
Tell me, what does it look like in heaven? Is it peaceful? Is it free like they say? Does the sun shine bright forever? Have your fears and your pain gone away?
Make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I'm curious what you guys think.